This is the United Uprising channel. Welcome to today's show. I want to cover this story about a Tesla factory worker who was attacked by a robot that dug its claws into the backs and arms of the man, or the back and arm of the man. You know, because, again, I mean, this is normal, right? It's normal. It's no big deal. It's more important for us to get these robots to work in factories to stock the shelves because we don't want humans to actually make a living and be able to take care of themselves and their family. We want the humans to be dependent on the government and be compliant with them and modify their behavior so that they're approved by the government so that they'll give them some, food that's going to make them sick anyway and give them no actual nutrition and, put them in a little enslavement prison cell, et cetera, right? The whole notion of the fact of why we need technology is what they want to make sure you don't question. And that's really where we should be headed now as a society. We should be saying, should we be eliminating this tech? Do we need this tech? That's why if you listen to any of the stuff with advancements in technology, they constantly tell us about, the pros are really important. So we have to continue forward with this stuff, for the long-term health. They'll tell you that some type of disease like Parkinson's can be cured. People who can't speak can speak again with the Apple voice. Oh, yes. So we need this technology. So don't worry if robots are going rogue and beating the crap out of human beings in factories and sticking their claws into their backs, don't worry about that. You're just a conspiracy theorist, right? So this story is circulating about this Tesla factory worker who was attacked and assaulted by a robot. Now, what's interesting to note is that it's circulating in mainstream media outlets like the New York Post, Daily Beast, Yahoo's covering it. Why are they covering the story? Well, because it sounds like, a story that should be covered, right? But the story is actually stemming from a report in 2021, and it's 2023 heading into 2024, right? So clearly there's a reason they're putting this story out there again. And again, this is to desensitize you. This is going to be the new norm. So the more you hear of stories like this, the more you subconsciously, without realizing it, get desensitized, because this is how psychology, this is how psychosis, how mind control works. So your brain just starts accepting this as, okay, well, my mind is, I hear these stories and I'm just going to start realizing that this is what's going to happen in the new world. Robots could go rogue. They could beat the crap out of humans. And now instead of being like, whoa, we got to stop that from happening. Let's take down the robots. What do we need these for? Instead, you just start accepting it as a new reality. This is what they do with everything. If you're new to all this, this is basic psychology that they use on the masses, basic form of mind control that they use on the masses. It's called desensitizing you, right? I used to cover this with the Satanic Temple over and over again. The very first time the Satanic Temple got into a school with their after-school Satan program, everybody was going nuts. And I said, they're going to desensitize you over and over and over again. They're going to come out with stories about how Christians are conspiracy theorists, nothing's happening, there's no sacrifice, there's none of this stuff going on. And eventually everyone will be desensitized to it and more people will be accepting of it. Because at first you push back, whoa, hey, this is not nuts. I don't know how we're allowing this to happen. And then over time, you just start accepting it as the new norm. That's how we've gotten to this point with the insanity of these certain communities who like to hold up rainbow flags. And the behavior was just, we just want to get married. And now the behavior is, we want to marry your kid, right? It was, all we want is equal opportunity to marry each other. Now they don't want straight people to work. They don't want your kid to be allowed to go to a school where they're not there lap dancing on them. So this is what we've allowed, right? People become so desensitized to everything going on that they continue to, you give them an inch, they take 100 yards. So with stories like this, they're desensitizing you because they're going to hear more and more about it, because this is the reality we're going to be living in, because machines are going to be going rogue and they don't want you to rebel against this. They don't want you to say, hey, who's regulating big tech? Hey, this is the same big tech that's regulating our free speech and we're allowing them to do it. Who are these psychopaths? No, instead they want you to just go, and we should already be fighting back because of the basic fact that technology is taking jobs away from humans. All of us as human beings should say, I don't care what your political belief is. I don't even care if you're packing fudge. I don't care. Just when it comes to this, right? This is a basic human, the violation of human rights is what it is. We don't want to take jobs away from people because people need to support their families, put food on the table. Now, this is an old school mindset because in today's world, obviously with the woke communists, they don't want you to be able to put food on your table. Obviously, I'm living proof of that. They don't want me to speak. They don't want me to be able to support myself. And many of you are living proof of that because I'm sure they tried to force a certain something into your body recently. And they said, well, if you don't take this, you aren't allowed to have a job. And nobody was like, whoa, that's a little extreme. These people do have to provide for their families. No, because this is what happens when you have a society of narcissists. They're creating an army of narcissists. They have no compassion for anyone else. and it's about me, 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 right? And this is why we need to stick together. We need to make sure that we're all prepared because this is going to get worse and worse and worse. And stories like this are going to get worse and worse and worse. So this story this is circulating as of December 27th, 2023. Okay, this story is out there. This story is in all the big media hubs right after Christmas. So it's out there for a reason if this event happened in 2021. They're going to continue, you're going to hear more stories like this because this is going to be the new norm. A Tesla software engineer suffered serious injuries when he was attacked by a malfunctioning robot on the floor of the electric car maker's factory in Austin, Texas. Witnesses told the information last month that the robot, which was designed to move aluminum car parts, pinned the engineer and sank its metal claws into his back and arm, leaving a trail of blood along the floor. I mean, are you joking me? The engineer, so is it more important for this robot to move aluminum car parts because we don't want a human being, God forbid the human, picks up aluminum car parts? Now, I get it if we look at the basic, lib out there, that it's too much work for them to move the aluminum car part because they can't put their phone down. But do we really want to eliminate the job of doing that and give it to a robot? What's the mindset of that? Oh, well, it's something, it's better it's more efficient if the robot moves it versus the human. Though that's a scary thought. Maybe human beings should start realizing what they're actually doing to all of us and how dumbed down they're making everybody so that people can't get anything accomplished and they constantly stay inside of a, social media psychosis is really what I call it. So, the robot needed to move the aluminum car parts. So what ends up happening is we have to have the robot on the floor, and thus the robot sinks its metal claws into the back of a human, leaving a trail of blood along the floor. No, this is not the plot of the newest Terminator 2024. No, this is just something that's happening in our real world now. But we were all called, and still get called, conspiracy theorists when we pointed to predictive programming 30 years ago, movies like Terminator, movies like Outbreak. Oh, you're conspiracy nuts. It's just coincidental that a script was written with the same exact plot. Yeah, and this is what it's headed towards, right? So the engineer was programming software that controls robots whose job is to cut car parts for freshly cast pieces of aluminum, while two of the robots were disabled so that the engineer and his crew could work on the machines. A third was inadvertently left on, resulting in the attack 2 years ago. Witnesses told the information. Again, the story is older, but it's circulating now. So that means that this is circulating for a psychological reason, right? News is supposed to be fresh, new, what's happening. They're putting this out there in big media outlets because they're programming you with it. Everything in the news is to program you and condition you. Nothing more. There's no real news out there. They're telling you this stuff to psychologically manipulate you, play with you, and herd you. And that's what people need to realize, especially when it comes to politics with the left and right. Okay, there's no news being reported by these people. It's a psychosis. So while the other robots were disabled, which tells you all you need to know, well, why were the robots disabled? Well, the robots can't be on the same floor as the humans because something like this could happen. Well, that's a problem then. That's a problem. That's why we need to build gigantic, EMPs, and we need to nuke these things out. Right? I mean, I'm talking big ones, but I know people out there are like, Well, that's the notion that I have. So have those things on standby for when crap hits the fan and they release stuff like this. And people are like, this guy's a crazy nut job, conspiracy theory. Till it happens to them, and they want to come buddy up with you because you've got something to protect, and they'll still be like, oh, you weren't right about it. It just so happened Russia did just nobody will believe it. Nobody wants to believe it. And when it happens, they still will deny it that it's happening right in front of their faces. So this is the predicament we're in because we have a majority of human beings that are narcissistic psychopaths that just constantly think the world revolves around them instead of saying, hey, we all need to band together. We're all human beings. We need to stop this. Nobody gave power to Tesla, Elon Musk, and that's one of the reasons that you see a lot of this stuff with Elon Musk becoming conservative, a patriarch for free speech, right? They're hurting the right wing who think that they're awake. They're still hive-minded. They don't realize it. So what should be happening is all these big tech companies should be arrested. These are crimes against humanity. These are things that they have not, nobody gave them the authority. It's crazy that we live in a society where they're more concerned about people like us talking than technology like this being built, unregulated, and released. Now, they say they want, we hear the government talking about government regulation, but we know the government's behind it because Google and all these corporations work with the government. We don't want government regulation. We want civilian regulation. And that's what this is going to lead towards. So we all need to prepare ourselves to band together and to go after this stuff when crap hits the fan, because the government is not going to protect us from this. The government wants to use this to enslave us. That's what this is all about. This global government can only function with technology. Without technology, there is no global government. So for people who are like, how do we fight against it? Turn Amish, it's a long process that would have to occur. But technology has to be eliminated, period. And that's why they're so hell-bent on constantly using little subliminal mind control by saying how important technology is for the advancement of humanity over and over. They keep just telling us this, right? Because they don't want you to suddenly go, yeah, you know what? Maybe we should stop this. Something needs to occur. And then the answer they have for that is, well, they're talking about it in Congress. No, we don't trust any of the people in Congress, left or right. They're psychopaths who are obviously all bought and paid for. So they're not going to regulate this ever, under any circumstance. The only thing that they care about is free speech, because they don't want people to wake up and take their power away from them. So that's why they silence people like you and me on a day in and day out basis. So back to the article here, two of the robots were disabled, but one of them they forgot to turn off. So since they forgot to turn it off, I guess it's fair game for the robot to assault a human being and eat it, right? So the injury was apparently not severe enough to require the employee to take time off from work. Oh, no, why is this guy not suing him? He must be a Manchurian candidate, I guess, because he's, why would you not sue Tesla? Oh, right, I forgot. My bad. You can't win in the courtroom against these people. Read the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And you'll find out that none of us could ever sue and win, which is one of the reasons I'm never going to court with Google, because I'll never win. It's all rigged. It's all set up against us, right? So they can just continue to do this stuff. That's why you just got to do the things you can to prepare and try to figure out where these people, Anyway, let's continue on here. So injury reports submitted to the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration alleged that nearly 1 out of every 21 workers at the Giga Texas factory got hurt last year. In the automotive industry, the median injury rate last year was 30 workers. So they're kind of just they're poo-pooing it. Like, oh, okay. So the sensational headline is that it dug its claws into the back of someone's arm. And then they're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. He was fine. So then people read it and they're like, oh, okay. Well, it didn't cut his head off, so that's okay. So we'll continue to allow technology. And then they're psychologically programming you to realize that the technology is going to go rogue, but it won't be as bad as you think. So we'll continue to allow it. We won't ask for regulations until it's too late. And then, chaos will ensue. And of course, this technology will be what polices us. There's not going to be human police, and people are going to want it, right? This is part of the reason that they psychologically get everybody obsessed with their tech, trust in tech. Oh, tech's all about equity. Tech doesn't see skin color. This is what's coming next. If you haven't seen it yet, where they're headed with all of us being divided by genders and skin color. Now, nobody's divided by it. They make you think you are. And then there's some people who follow all the propaganda, and then they become racist, etc., because these idiots are pumping it into their head. No, these psychopaths are pumping it into their head, right? So then the technology, it doesn't see skin, it doesn't see race. Everybody will be like, that's great, that's what we need, especially the libs, obviously. And they will realize that these things will kill you if you actually walk, outside your breaking curfew. Up, bye, right? Up, there comes RoboCop, bam, right? Oh, that's a T2 in your hall. No big deal. And they'll not realize it. They'll still be taking selfies of themselves in their apartment while the robots are sitting outside holding assault rifles, the same ones they wanted to get out of civilians' hands so the technology could have the assault rifles, because they don't see skin color. So it's more important for the robots to have, machine guns and everything else. But civilians, that's bad, because civilians are bad. But technology's good and they love their technology. So they'll be enslaved by tech. And it's a term we always hear, but people just roll their eyes like enslaved by tech. They didn't realize that this mental health crisis is because they're enslaved with technology, the psychosis of social media. Like, these people are on autopilot behavior, constantly taking photographs of themselves. Their thought process is always to take a picture of something, to film something. They're not even in the reality that we're in right now. They're living in, obviously, a different universe, a different world, a simulated reality, really. Right? And for those of us that are awake, we can see this when we walk out in public and people watch. We can see how these people are behaving. Can we not? Right? So anyway, the story is released obviously for that reason. They want you to know that this is going to happen, that it is going on. Just covered Tesla with all the cars being recalled. What should that automatically do? It should make people go, okay, all these Teslas are being recalled because they're dangerous, but our government's telling us that we all need to drive these things. Yeah, no. Right? This is government overreach beyond comprehension at this point. Okay, and then with the regulation of robots and stuff like that, working in factories, they're going to pretend like they're doing something about it, and they're talking about, we don't want the government to regulate. The government has proven to us, and this is the problem with the Democrats, because their own party could come and shoot them in their own home, and they'll still support their party, because that's how communism works. Their party is above God, their party is above their families, it's their party first, so they could do no wrong, right? So that's part of the obvious big problem here. Instead of going, hey, you know what? They're not doing it. They should be looking at Congress going, you know what? Republicans and Democrats aren't doing anything but divide us. They're not doing anything to help us. That's the mindset they don't want you to have. That's why people like us are a threat to them. Because when people start thinking and people start going, yeah, they talk about all this peace, love, and unity stuff, but they're the ones who are constantly gaslighting us into division. But they're not thinking. And then when they hear people like me, they just remove us because they want you to stay in the left-right paradigm, right? So this type of technology is obviously not safe. This type of technology is clearly not needed, but they're going to tell you it's needed and it's safe. And they're going to keep doing it over and over again until you accept it, allow it, and then it'll eventually be too late. So this story is circulating from a few years ago for a reason. Remember that every time you see a story, right? This story is dated December 27th, December 26th. You'll find multiple dates of today and yesterday of this story being out there. And it's from a couple years ago. So then you say, why is the story out there? Okay, it's a conditioning method. It's a mechanism being used. They do it over and over with everything. It's all to psychologically manipulate and hurt you. Shut off the tech, shut off the news. People need to get back to starting to living that way, interacting with people offline, etc. These are things they don't want you to think about, they don't want you to consider, and they don't want you to do because it's the only way to stop their new world order. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you as always and your families.